Today's guest is the president of the Chris Evans Fan Club. Joining me now, it's KMOT reporter Faith Hatton. She's up from North Carolina, joining us in North Dakota. You're probably the biggest sports fan I know, right?
Absolutely not. You know I don't sport.
Absolutely not. Well, we got to break from the norm a little bit, so I thought you'd be a good guest here. Let's talk about just your experience so far at KMOT. What's been kind of some of the biggest stories that you've gotten to cover in Minot so far?
Yeah, so I'll say the biggest story I've been able to cover so far would be the firing of former city manager Tom Barry.
The drummer, yeah.
Yeah. Well, because that was like the first story that kind of broke that really affected the people here. And that was also the first story that like really got people riled up. So to be able to look at it from the outside, because, you know, I had just moved here. I didn't really know what the situation was with the city council, what the public opinion was for the aldermen and, you know, kind of how the city was being run until I got this story. So when I was assigned the story, that was the first kind of like, I don't want to say guerrilla journalism, but it was the first time I had to really get like hands deep into the investigative part. I looked up his contract. I looked up, you know, the meeting minutes, the agendas and all that. So I had to do a lot of background research in order to report on this thoroughly and correctly. And the things that I found were just scandalous. It was like, you know, there were accusations of interrogation and, you know, corruption and all this other stuff. And the affidavit was crazy because it was like I got to see the details of what happened and like the police report and kind of see what went down regarding his contract and looking up kind of what the aftermath would be before it even happened. So that was one of the things that when it was posted and the story got out, people were turning up. And it was really kind of cool to see like, oh, he's getting paid that much? Oh my God. And like see kind of the backlash from people. But that was like the first story that like I was able to really be a journalist for while working on.
We've had Dateline up in Minot a couple of times here before you got here, and obviously this isn't a comparison to like the murder mysteries that they put on there.
Great.
But as you were kind of digging into that story, it had to mean something to you to cover something that meant a lot to a lot of people.
Yeah, and that's where, like, you know, I wanted to make sure I was reporting accurately because I knew that this did affect the people in Minot. I knew it did affect taxpayers. This is their money. You know, people have been kind of upset with, you know, what the money's being spent on so far. So to find out that they might have to continue paying for something he's not even doing, you know, I wanted to make sure I was handling that carefully and accurately because I did not want to start something that didn't need to be started.
You wanted to accurately be able to show how lucky everybody was through that situation, huh? Or what?
Yeah, well, I did some digging. I reached out to some of the larger cities in the area and kind of found out how much their city managers were being paid. And the transparency of those other cities really helped to kind of piece the story together because in the grand scheme of things, he wasn't being paid that much in comparison to like Bismarck or Williston. But it is still a pretty good piece of chunk change, you know, so it's still important to know where those funds are going and how they're going to pay for it, basically.
So everybody that's been working at KMOT since I've been here for 5 years, Joe for 7, the one local person that I remember was meteorologist Stephanie Waldrip. She went to Minot High, came back after graduating from UND, but other than that, everybody's moving from all over the country to get like the starter market job here in the Minot area, north central North Dakota, all that good stuff. Tell me a little bit about when maybe you first were looking at jobs, applied at KMOT, maybe got through the interview. What were kind of your thoughts about the Minot area before you moved here, and now that you're here and you see it for a few months, close to year-ish, you know, what are your just thoughts on the town before and after?
Yeah, so when Joe reached out to me, our news director, Joe Skrzyszewski, he reached out to me about the job, and I immediately started Googling. I'm like, okay, what's Minot like? You know, what's some of the atmosphere? What's some of the cultural changes? Because I had never been this far up north. We'd visited New York, and I've been all up and down the East Coast, but I've never been somewhere, you know, kind of permanently. We've always just come to visit. So I definitely wanted to see, you know, what the atmosphere was, what the landscape was, what the people were like. So we immediately started Googling. We found a YouTube channel done by a member of the Air Force here who was kind of like touring through the town. He drove through the town and was like, here's what this is. Here's this side of town. Here's the mall. Here's a walkthrough of the mall. So I was able to get kind of a really good kind of feel of the layout of the city pretty easily. But the thing that really kind of shocked me was how nice everybody here is. Like, the Southerners have this whole stereotype of, like, everybody up north is, like, cold and mean and, like, nasty. But I found that's definitely not true, because people here are nicer than the people in Fayetteville, where I'm from. You know, if I come up to someone with a camera or, you know, for an interview, they are way nicer than they probably will be in Fayetteville. So that was a nice change of pace, I'll say, because the people here are just the sweetest, or they have been so far. So
I've been picking up this show for like my time off thing to keep busy, but with your lifestyle, tell me a little bit about the place that Disney Plus holds to you.
Yeah, so I am definitely a TV junkie. I love watching movies and watching shows. Disney Plus has, I don't want to say changed my life, but it has revolutionized how much pirating of content I have to do. There are older Disney shows that I really, really enjoyed growing up, or I discovered when I was in like high school or college, that I kind of had to watch on YouTube, or I had to watch on like one of those sketchy cartoon sites that you can go to online, but that, you know, you sneeze wrong and then bam, you have like 30 viruses on your computer. So Disney Plus is allowing me to watch some of the older shows. So Hercules, the animated series, The Little Mermaid, the animated series, The Emperor's New School. I can now watch all of those in full length, in good quality, and I'm not breaking the law when I do so, and that is great.
Is there a point in time where the Disney shows that you follow, they stop being like nostalgic versus you look at some of the newer shows and you're like, dang, these kids just trying to relate how old Disney was like? Because for me, I'm thinking about, like, I don't even think SpongeBob is good, like, past 2003.
Yeah.
You know, something like that.
Yeah.
Does that happen for you?
Absolutely. So a lot of the Disney shows that I grew up with were definitely made in their time. So things like The Sweet Life of Zack and Cody, you know, probably wouldn't be picked up today because, you know, it's a totally different audience. So I've been trying to get into some of the new, you know, DComs and some of the new stuff. I try to get into zombies because my sister is super into zombies and like the Descendants films. She loves the Descendants films. And I tried to watch them and I just couldn't because I was raised on High School Musical and Phil of the Future and, you know, some of the, I don't want to say OG DComs, but like some of the, you know, more famous ones in the early 2000s. So to kind of see that transfer of kind of a different kid culture, it's really weird. And I don't think I can watch some of the stuff now, but I can watch High School Musical in like a second. I still remember the dances and the songs and all that because it was just such a big thing.
Me and Joe killed Tiger King in one sitting one afternoon. And I'm not going to make it about being home and being safe because of COVID, but if you're at home and you have to be at home for 12 hours, what show do you need to be watching straight through?
Honestly, I will watch Scrubs. I started binging Scrubs once I found out that, like, okay, we got to kind of distance ourselves. I started from season 1. I am now on season 6, and I refuse to watch the final 2 seasons because those were trash.
Sounds like Game of Thrones.
Sounds like Game of Thrones. I don't know why these shows always kind of putter out in the last season, but it's like, just stay strong. Come on. Or end it before you do ruin it. You know, like, because I don't know why they decided to continue on with the show. Scrubs, you have these great characters, you've got these proven formulas that you know work for your audience, and then you're going to just suddenly switch it up to like a General Hospital knockoff with these young kids we don't even care about, who we didn't even care about in the main series. Like, why?
What are you doing?
Yeah.
I'm glad you brought up Scrubs because Joe always likes to give me crap because I get really mad at Zach Braff because he's currently like robbing the cradle right now. He's with like the love of my life, Florence Pugh from Midsummer.
Aww.
And he really busts me on that. And he won't let me hear the end of that. So another big franchise fan that you are is got to be the Star Wars movies. Your favorite ones?
Okay, my favorite one, without a doubt, is Return of the Jedi because of the Jabba's palace scenes.
Jazz fan, yeah.
Well, I mean, like the prosthetics on the jazz band, and of course the song is iconic, is fantastic. But if you really look at the puppets and the, you know, kind of the designs of some of these creatures that we have, it's so cool and it's so weird. And Star Wars, the original trilogy, is what happens when you just try to tell a cool story and you let things get weird. And I didn't really realize it until I did a little bit of background research, but the reason why I like those kind of creatures is because some of the puppet work was done by Wendy Froud, who ended up being a huge component of Jim Henson's creature design shop. And it's really cool to think that in 1983 they released, Return of the Jedi, and she actually helped on some of the puppets in that movie, the Yoda puppet, and I believe some of the creatures in Jabba's palace. So 3 years after that, they actually worked together to create Labyrinth, and that's my all-time favorite movie. Mm-hmm. No question. But to kind of see those influences earlier on and then to kind of compare it to things like Labyrinth and the Dark Crystal, it's really, really cool to see these designs and how, they kind of shift over into these different movies. But it's really, really cool to see like the early designs, because I could easily see, I don't even know what that thing was, the little Jabba's little rat pet thing.
Yeah.
It's like I could easily see that being a goblin in Labyrinth. And it's because they may have had the same designer, and that is so cool.
You got like the one guy that has like the curly Q, like he's like a cone head, but it's flat
Yeah.
and it's like wrapped around and frightening.
Yeah.
Quick point, Jim Henson, Maryland guy, so go Terps. We have a statue of him talking to Kermit the Frog right by the student union. Real cute, good photo spot and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Now, when you're at Jabba's palace, don't they have the one scene where like they belly up to the bar and the guy's like, I don't like you for no reason, by the way, like he's a murderer or something?
Yes.
Like, only the scum and villainy between a couple of different places in there? Or what?
Yeah, well, I mean, honestly, the main reason why I enjoy Jabba's Palace, on top of the creative creature work, is because that's where Leia kind of gets to, like, throw down. Like, she breaks in, she tries to save Han, she lets him out of his carbonite freezing whatever, and then she gets captured, and then she's in the golden bikini. Okay, first of all, Princess Leia in the gold bikini is a look, okay? Iconic. Even to this day, like, everybody knows the gold bikini. But in that outfit also, she took the chain that Jabba had been holding onto her with, and she uses it to strangle him to death.
Baller.
That is poetic cinema, my guy. Like, I really love that Leia was actually allowed to do stuff in this movie, and she, I kind of bitter that she didn't really get her force powers, or like,
I can tell, it really affects you, yeah.
Yeah, like it's alluded to, and then we get into the, oh my God, the terrible sequels, and
that's what that was my follow-up. How do you feel that, how Star Wars maintained its integrity since going to Disney? I feel like I already know the answer from you.
Okay, I knew Disney was gonna kill it, and not in a good way. Like, just, I will watch the original trilogy whenever. Just give me a time, I'm down. But the follow-up films, the first three, are just terrible. And I feel like that's what happens when you try to over-explain something, because it's all just political talk. And it's trying to do the setup for Darth Vader when it was perfectly fine just keeping him evil. Like, we didn't really need a whole, backstory of his kids and how his marriage disintegrated.
Yeah.
Like, he was just a cool villain. So to kind of pull the tarp back and take a look at that, and plus, Anakin was such an annoying little kid. I don't like sand. It's coarse and it gets everywhere.
It's like father and son, and you get a bunch of whiners.
Well, if you think about it, Star Wars is basically the Skywalker tragedy. I mean, this one family is just
Tatooine whiners and complainers.
Yeah, I would read that page, because I promise you, 80% of those comments would be about this little twerp Anakin.
Get a couple leads on that.
Yeah, like, go ahead and get that started. But like, it's just. The prequels try too hard to explain something that I feel really needed to be explained. And then you have the awful space pear scene. I don't know if you've seen it, but it's when Anakin and Padme are at a table and they're eating a single pear with a knife and fork.
You don't do that? That's not the way you do it?
That's definitely not how I eat my dinner, no. And then he, like, force floats the pear over to her, and it's supposed to be like the super romantic
cute.
Scene. Yeah, and it's like
so awkward.
Pear. And then, oh my God, and then I had huge hope for The Force Awakens. I actually quite enjoyed The Force Awakens. Everybody was kind of cautious because J.J. Abrams was coming in to lead this, and I don't think up until then he'd been given a project of that size with that many expectations attached to it. But he did a really, really good job. But then in the next one, oh God, what was it? It was
You gotta tell me.
The Last Jedi. The Last Jedi. That was such a waste of the universe. Like, I wanted a lot more out of that movie than what we got. But what it basically was just 2 hours of the Resistance being swatted out of the space sky like flies. And then we go on this adventure with Finn and Rose that was really pointless. And you're like, okay. How
rewatchable are the new movies compared to the old ones?
Okay, Force Awakens I will rewatch because I genuinely enjoyed the setup. I thought it was going to be more than what it was. The Last Jedi, I haven't seen it since I saw it in theaters, and then the final one, what is it, The Rise of Skywalker, I haven't even seen because I know it's going to be trash.
I was going to say, have you been able to kind of, Faith desperately wanted me to get caught up on Star Wars, so you lent me like the entire DVD collection, and I kind of lagged because I watched the first 3, and then I lagged on episodes 1 through 3 because they're terrible anyway.
Yeah.
But what sucked was you were waiting for me to get them done, and that cost you a chance to see like The Last Skywalker in theaters. Are we past that?
Yeah,
or are you still kind of upset about that?
I forgive you. I forgive you. It's on Disney Plus now. I can watch it whenever I want, and I have no desire whatsoever to because I know it's going to be trash.
It all comes back to Disney Plus. They own the universe, right?
Oh, yeah. Oh, they owe everything. And kind of, Disney Plus is kind of a really revealing look at how many properties Disney really owns.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It's kind of worry. It's kind of concerning.
My last bit on your favorite Jabba's Palace scene was the music's good in the palace, but I actually like the groove when they're on the way to like the huge worm thing that's supposed to eat them off the plank of the pirate ship.
Yeah.
That's a good vibe too, and I haven't been able to find it on YouTube or SoundCloud or anything. All the rappers on there haven't picked up or sampled it yet.
Yeah.
I can't wait. Maybe we'll have to start that since we're already in the studio.
Yeah, you're a DJ.
Yeah, huge Star Wars fan here. So I'm curious. Have you watched like the Family Guy Blue Harvest and stuff like that? Do you get to laugh at that at all?
Is that
there's 3 different. I think there's 2, maybe 3 Family Guy Star Wars spoofs.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I've been watching Family Guy in my off time too, and I have mixed feelings about the show, but I did find that their Star Wars spoofs are pretty funny. And apparently, because I was like, is this legal? Because they are basically literally just pulling it into their own universe. And apparently Jim Henson was a fan of Family Guy, so when they reached out to him to kind of get copyright permission, he's like, do whatever you want, and they just ran with it like 3 times. And I actually do genuinely find those episodes funny just because it's Family Guy's weird humor in the Star Wars universe, and for some reason that appeals to me.
Like Peter Griffin as Han Solo when he's getting out of the carbonite and he's like mooning.
Yeah.
And then they have like the opening roll up. I guess Seth MacFarlane was tuckered out, the busy guy. He's like, listen, we were spent. We didn't even want to do Return of the Jedi, but Fox said it was a complete cash cow, and we're not going to let you go and do A Million Ways to Die in the West or whatever.
Yeah.
if you do it, so go ahead.
It's that blunt humor, and it's really cool to see, like, they're calling out the franchise because they're like, oh, okay, we're doing Star Wars now. All right, I guess that's what we're doing now. And it's really cool to have that kind of, dry humor be like poking fun at the fact that Star Wars is a cash cow and it is a huge franchise and that it will probably continue to be ripped off in the future.
Any streaming service, whether it's Disney Plus, Hulu, or Netflix, has really jumped into like the original content, not only like paying to have like Seinfeld or Cheers or Star Wars movies. They do their own things, original content, which is great. And you brought up to me the other day about what you'd like to see. They're bringing back what, like Avatar: The Last Airbender. I saw the one in theaters and it was awful. But what's your hope for that?
Okay, so I've been a fan of Avatar since its second season. I kind of jumped on the bandwagon a little bit later. I was in middle school at the time, and I didn't really understand what the premise of the show was during its entire first season. So the second season, I actually started watching like AMVs on YouTube, and I was like, oh, let's look into the series. So I was able to kind of go on that ride from season 2 onward, and it was amazing to kind of see all that build-up and all that character development and all that perfect storytelling. And then we had the live-action movies, which no one in the fandom talks about, for good reason. That movie was trash, and everybody had a right to be very upset.
It was hot trash.
It was hot, flaming trash. Like, oh my God. So, you try to stay hopeful, but then they also did a follow-up series a few years later called Legend of Korra. And I personally did not enjoy Legend of Korra. I felt like the writing was way worse than it had a right to be because it was the, predecessor to Avatar: The Last Airbender. It came right after, everybody's hopes were high, and then none of the original writers came back, and it was actually headed by the series creators who call themselves Bright. It's a combination of their 2 names. So I've read up on the Netflix series. They're going to attempt to do it again, live action, and apparently Bright will be leading the development for that. I'm personally not excited for it, but I might watch it just because, the nostalgia of it.
Time of taping right now, we're wrapping up opening week of this, so the hype right now is all about Hamilton being on Disney Plus.
Yes.
Big theater fan, right?
Oh yeah.
How well do you feel? Have you seen it yet?
I haven't seen it yet.
Okay. Because how well do you think it might translate from, you're sitting in the theater versus watching it on TV, and obviously it's really popular, so it's going to take off, I think, no matter what. But where do you think the future is? Will we see way more, plays and musicals get on to streaming services?
Yeah, so I honestly really hope so, just because there is a distinction between stage musicals being recorded and then a movie version of the musical. So I've been able to see shows on Broadway, and they were fantastic. But also, knowing good and well that something that you're going to see on Broadway, like seeing Chicago on Broadway, is going to be wildly different from seeing it, as the film. The film version was great, and the Broadway version is great. But there is a difference between just doing a new movie based on a musical versus filming that musical on stage with the original cast, which Hamilton was actually able to do. It's really, really cool they were able to do that, because you do kind of get this unique experience. Yes, you are an audience member, but you're also watching a film. So you don't have to be in the nosebleed seats in New York to see this show anymore. Now you can be on stage with the actors as they're performing, and that in and of itself is its own unique experience. That is something that, not a lot of people will ever get to see, unfortunately, because, if a musical comes out to the masses like that, it's probably going to be a movie. But I feel like if you can record a professional recording of a stage musical, that in and of itself is as close to an authentic experience as you can possibly get.
Have you seen any musical film adaptations where you haven't seen it live yet and you really want to see it? For me, it's West Side Story.
Yeah, West Side Story, I've seen the film adaptation. Again, iconic. The one film I would probably want to see that I love the musical would have to be Hairspray. I watched the 2007 version with Zac Efron when it came out, and I was obsessed. But, trying to do a traditional show like that might be hard depending on where you are and what your cast members, what your cast look like. Because, the creators of Hairspray recently kind of brought attention to the fact that if a certain theater troupe or community didn't have enough black actors, they were okay with them being cast as with white actors or with actors of another race. Well, that kind of loses the meaning of the show if you have a white woman playing Motormouth Maybelle.
Wasn't like having African-American girl playing Annie in the news a couple years back about that too?
That was Quavinjane Wallace, and, the backlash for that was crazy, because it's like, Redhead Annie isn't going anywhere. They wanted to try something new. They wanted to try and modernize it for a new audience, and that's perfectly fine. If it's not your cup of tea, you still have the 1984 version.
Go back to 1984.
Go back to 1984. Like, it's not going anywhere, and that movie is great. So, like, Let us have this. And, that's kind of the thing. It's like, yes, you should be able to see Broadway casting, because Broadway's going to do it the way it was intended to be done, and that in and of itself is its own unique experience. But for someone who's in, say, North Dakota, getting to go to New York, pay for that trip, pay $500 for a ticket, and you're still in the nosebleed seats, that's just not very feasible. So if you would like to see art in its purest form, I think Broadway needs to jump on the maybe streamline, the streaming bandwagon, and try and professionally record some of these shows. Otherwise, they might not be produced again. They might not get a chance to go on tour.
You got to go to Mouse River Players in downtown Minot.
Yeah.
For another experience, right?
Yeah, I've talked to them, and they seem super into, the experience of acting and really honing their craft. And that's great, but I feel like if they can get to New York and see a Broadway play, they absolutely should. But if they're also able to watch it while sitting at home and streaming, like, that's an experience I think every actor should get to see people who are professionals, who are on Broadway, where they might want to be sometime, get to see them do their craft. That in and of itself is reason enough.
What parts of a show are enriched more from seeing it live, and on the other side, what might even be better if you're watching it on TV versus being in a theater? Is it just like the not having the nosebleeds, or what? Because I don't want to trash the streaming version or anything, but there has to be some good things about it.
Yeah. So The funny thing is, I've actually been able to see shows on Broadway. I went with my college, Appalachian State Theater Department. They took us on a senior trip to Broadway. Well, the tickets were crazy expensive, and we were in the nosebleed seats, but we did get to experience these shows live. Now, the thing that changes is that now, if you have a Disney Plus subscription, not only do you get to see Hamilton, which has a wait list through 2025, and it's on a ticket lottery system, so you may never get tickets, and if you do, you might be up in the nosebleed seats. But now you not only get to see the show with its original cast, with its original, runtime, you get to be on stage up close and see every emotion and every twinge and every scene change and all of that. And that is so cool. That is something that even a Broadway experience might not be able to give you, because even though you are there in person, you're still far away. But there's nothing between the actor and the camera. There's no rows of seats or like a sneezing dad or like a crying baby that's going to really pull it out. And that's the cool thing about having these things available to watch whenever. Now, the funny thing is that a lot of musicals are actually recorded and saved in archives in the New York City Library. And I was able to watch the first half of Wicked. Now, it wasn't like professionally shot or anything. They basically just set up a camera.
Yeah, bootlegger.
Yeah, it's a bootleg version. They set up the camera on like the second balcony, and then the camera doesn't move, and you're still in the nosebleed seats. But they have these available, not for purchase or anything, but you can watch these musicals. So it's like you already record it for reasons, I guess. Like, just give it to people. And there's a whole, like, YouTube underground of people who sneak their phones into theaters. Oh, God, I hope I don't ruin it for everybody. But there's, like, you can actually watch certain musicals.
You'd be like that MMA fighter that ruined all, like, the Reddit pirate streams for pay-per-views and stuff.
Yeah, because he had his phone in and he was just, like, live streaming the fights. And that's basically what these people do. They go in and they record whole acts. It's crappy recordings, and they're honestly not losing anything. But people really tune into those, and they really want to see it, no matter how crappy the quality. These videos have thousands upon millions of views.
You got to get into Hamilton, like, with your press pass, best chance, or what?
I'd honestly rather just watch it on stream. I mean, let's be real. I'm never going to be able to afford to go to New York and to, buy the really, really good seats, right up front. And even so, like, the original cast is kind of scattered. So now you're going to see maybe not Lin-Manuel Miranda. You might see someone else who's taken on the role, which it's fine. But, just to be able to see the original cast and have those recordings, oh, my God, that's cool.
This is going to be a real fast turn here. So I ask you about capitalizing on the press pass maybe for a show. My old buddy Jack Springate, anytime he got a press pass, he's a big foodie. He's gone to all the rib fests here in Minot. So up over here on the show, we do our research. We see what's up.
Yep.
How good of a cook are you? I see some documentation. Yeah.
I can throw down. My
Top
family.
chef.
Oh yeah, my family made sure I had the skills in the kitchen as well as on the streets. You know what I mean? Like, they're like, okay, you're going to learn how to fry an egg. That was like the basic. And then as I got older, the recipes got more complex. And then eventually you just learn how to follow a recipe. And if you can follow a recipe, if you can read words and follow directions, you can cook. It's not, it's your own personal preference if you want to get fancy with the spices and all that stuff. So I've been cooking for a couple of years. I enjoy it.
Any North Carolina specialties that you bring up?
Yes, I actually made this last night for dinner, and it was an adventure because I have this teeny tiny crock pot. It's called cube steak. It's like the easiest thing you can possibly make, and it's a piece of cube steak. You batter it like you're frying chicken. You fry it. You stick it in the crock pot for 8 hours with French onion soup, cream mushroom soup, and then you just let it cook. It's the easiest possible thing you can ever make, but it's so good.
Am I thinking of the right thing? I think the popular thing now, it's like air fryer or something.
Yeah, you can fry things. I love the air fryer because if you come home and you have like McDonald's fries and they're cold, you can just stick them in the air fryer. Same quality. It revives the fries. As far as like air fryer complete recipes, like I don't know about that. That's kind of Like air fryer fried chicken, I don't really trust it.
Nah,
That seems like
not about it.
yeah,
Air
that
fried.
it seems dangerous, you know,
Yeah.
because like you got to cook chicken to a certain temperature, otherwise you can get sick.
What's dangerous back home is frying the turkey for Thanksgiving, making sure the whole house doesn't blow up.
Yeah, do you guys lower it in like
Oh,
the
yeah.
giant vat of oil? And
Yep.
I've
like,
seen
like
those
the
videos.
ceremony type thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I've seen those videos.
All right. So outwardly, tell me. I'm afraid you're not going to try to alienate anybody, but how do you rate the food options in Minot across different cuisines? Because I know you have an opinion.
I'm gonna sip my beverage. Hold on.
Sip, 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 sip.
All right,
That cup's empty.
It is.
Okay.
It is. This is when This is when I might ruffle some feathers. So, I love hamburgers. I make it my duty to.
You haven't upset anybody yet.
I haven't upset anybody yet. I make it my duty to try and find the best version of a certain food. So, best pizza, best hamburger, best tacos, best Mexican food, whatever. And honestly, Minot, I'm sorry, but I'm just not impressed. I know it's bad. I know it's terrible. But like, honestly, I'd rather cook my own stuff at home than go out to eat.
Where are you getting your sushi from? Or are you going to watch it on TV?
I've considered making my own sushi. Some of the sushi places around here are actually pretty balling.
I've never heard ballin' without an apostrophe on it.
Yeah, balling.
contraption,
Balling.
yeah.
They're balling. I meant what I
Currently balling.
said. They're,
Okay,
they're
yeah.
pretty balling. Yeah, the sushi here is surprisingly good. The hibachi I have found is not. One weird thing that we do with their pizza up here is that they put the pepperoni under the cheese.
Where was that at?
I don't want to name names. I went to 2 different places and they both did that. So okay, I'll say I went to 2 local and then 1 franchise, and 2 of the 3 places did that. And when I asked the man why, because I ordered a pepperoni pizza.
Where's
opened
the
it in the car.
Roonies?
So I ordered the pepperoni pizza. I get out to my car. I open it to check, and
There's
see
been
the
a
pepperoni.
mistake.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I go in and I ask him. I'm like, "Excuse me, and he's like, "Oh no, we put the pepperoni under the cheese." And I'm like, "Why though?" And he's like,
No.
"We don't want the pepperoni to get crispy," which is like, have you ever had a pizza, sir? Like, that's the point
Heard what?
of the. It was just so weird. So as far as pizza, I'll be sticking to franchises. Unfortunately, I have not been impressed with
You
pizza.
need to play it safe with the Papa John's Shakaroni pizza. I got that the other day. Extra large, extra pepperoni. It's
I saw the
fantastic.
commercial for that.
It's
but,
very the pepperoni density on that pizza is incredible.
See,
You can't even see the cheese.
But that seems like too much, though. Like you got to have a cheese to pepperoni ratio that you can live with. You know,
Mhm.
like you can't just throw it on there all willy nilly. It's an art form. You know.
You didn't want to out anybody, so I'll ask you the other way and the better side of it. What's been like the best non-franchise, like local place that you've been to?
Okay, non-franchise.
Mom pop
okay.
type thing or
Okay, so I'm not sure if it's not a franchise. We don't have it down south, so I'm not sure. But Taco Feliz has been pretty much a pretty solid place to get fajitas. I really enjoyed their fajitas. But outside of that, I have to say Charlie's. Charlie's is a really nice spot I like to go to for like breakfast and to meet up with friends. And you know, it's kind of got down home vibes. It reminds me of some of the restaurants that I can find in Fayetteville or in Boone. And that's really nice. And then just the breakfast sizes, the huge portions, I definitely appreciate. So I'll give it to Charlie's. Charlie's is great.
how was Homesteaders?
It was good.
Mhm.
It
was a good and quiet place.
It was good. It had Cracker Barrel vibes.
Well, just less trinkets.
Just a lot less trinkets, which is good because if
Yeah.
there ever is an earthquake or a fire or something, you don't want that
That's
stuff
my line, dude.
falling on you. Oh, I'm sorry.
I found it somewhere. It's all
okay,
right.
I was
Yeah.
like, and I didn't want to steal your thunder, man,
Yeah.
but like, you know, it was good.
Uh-huh. Yeah. All right. So, App State, right?
Yes.
Tell me a little bit about just the wild times. Like, were they the Mountaineers or?
Yeah,
And then over with the Boonies in Boone, North Carolina.
Yeah, so the first thing you should know about Boone is that originally we were a hippie town. We were, you know, love, hope, and all that jazz.
Boonies.
Boonies. And then eventually, as time progressed, we've turned into a hipster town, which is fun. So
It's a
now,
derivative.
yeah,
Makes sense.
a
yeah.
little bit, yeah. So you meet, the nice, sweet hippie lady who's been there for forever, and then you also meet Trevor, who's trying to get, his like website launched and
Check out my vape.
check out my vape. Oh my gosh! And all the SoundCloud rappers, Boone, get it together. Why are you letting them? It's so bad. Like I went on a few dates in college, and they all ended with, "Oh yeah, check me out on SoundCloud. I got my own rap game going," and I'm like, "Oh, okay."
Yeah. That's like in Forgetting Sarah Marshall when Jonah Hill gives his demo to Russell Brand. He's like, "What'd you think of my demo?" And he's like, "Well, I picked it up and I just went on living my life."
Yeah, exactly. Like you never
About
click
to
the
live
link.
that life away from you,
Yeah,
rap game.
you never click the link. Never click the link that they send you over text. But yeah, Appalachian State was a huge turning point for me. When I got to college, I did not know what I wanted to major in. I had absolutely no clue. And being able to talk to people and, really get to experiment with different types of classes and different types of majors that you could do really is what led me into broadcasting. I took a film class in high school, and I was good at it, the editing part and all of that. I was good at it, but I didn't really know what to do with that, You like something, but it doesn't mean you can make a career out of something. So when I got to app, I was just trying to get through, my basic courses and really figure out, okay, what can I feasibly do and make a career out of? And eventually it led me into broadcast courses and eventually theater courses because I just kept taking theater because I liked it. And that led to an accidental theater minor, whoopsie, that my family was surprisingly chill with.
Happens to the best of us.
Yeah, I thought I was going to go for business or something, but then, my junior year, they were like, "Oh, yeah, you need to meet with your theater advisor, your theater minor." And I'm like, "Oh, all right, well, I guess we're doing that." But the staff at App, they really kind of looked at what I was interested in doing, and then they kind of pointed me in the direction of broadcasting. Cool thing about App, my mom's actually an alumna. Yeah, she's an alumna.
Girls
from
are
App.
the alumnas. Yep.
And she actually graduated from App in 2007, and she went in for broadcasting and radio. And so I kind of knew, okay, I'm interested in editing and doing things with video and, the acting side. So instead of going into radio like she did, also to avoid being compared by our professors, because they were all still there when I rolled up, I went into the TV side. And, that was like the news and the TV writing and the screenwriting and really getting into the production side of things. And that's kind of where I found my groove. I was an intern for our college station, App TV, and I got to do some really, really fun things with App TV because, they were experimenting. They were trying to figure out what they wanted to do as a channel and try and kind of branch out their content. So
I was getting theater writing experience beneficial for the news writing transition. Is anything kind of taken away from it at all?
Honestly, no. So when you have that theater experience, you can understand tone and inflection more. So when you're writing a story, you can kind of hone in on some of the things that make it, that kind of humanize it. So when you are writing a script and either for TV or for a news story, you kind of got to figure out okay, who's the person in this and what are they going through right now? How can I best sum that up? And news, it's way crazier because you have such a short amount of time to get a point across. So I really feel like being able to write a full-fledged script in my mind is what helps me kind of hone in on the important stuff and then turn that into a story that has to be like a VOSOT or just a SOTVO or really get to the point a little bit faster. So it's definitely helped me.
Big North Carolina question here for you.
Yep.
At the risk of sounding totally basic, my family loves going down to the Outer Banks for a good vacation spot here. I'm not sure how close it is with App State or where you're from, Fayetteville at all. But is that a great southern vacation spot compared to anywhere else that you guys as a family like to go?
Yeah, so my family and I, we really enjoy being between, the mountains in Boone and then being able to go to the beach. So we have gone to the Outer Banks. There is one place right on the edge of the coast called Bald Head Island. That's where we like to kind of go and veg out for the day because it's a super, quiet area. It's private beaches, and there are these gorgeous beach houses on this island that you can either rent or you can also purchase. There's a resort out there. So we like to just go for the day. We kind of have that mix of beach, and then you go a little bit more inland, and then you can see kind of the marshes and the swampy areas. but you can see all these different like pieces of wildlife and flora and fauna that you won't be able to see further into the state. So we do enjoy going out towards the towards the outer banks, but we also recently for my brother's graduation, we went to Watauga Lake, which is really close to Boone, and we rented a boat and we were able to go out. And if anybody asks me what they should do if they're in North Carolina, I will say now, go to Watauga Lake, rent a boat, and just go have a blast. It's so much fun.
Is it well known locally, or is it tucked in kind of?
Oh no, it's well known. Yeah, Watauga Lake is kind of a staple tourist trap in the area. We had just never gone there because when you live somewhere, you don't really want to go to the place that you can always go to. Like, who cares, whatever. But we actually went and we rented a boat and we got to swim and we got to swing on this rope swing and we got to really just enjoy nature, I guess. It sounds so hippie, but I mean, yeah, Boone. Yeah.
Jeez. That's where we from,
Yeah.
I grew up in tourist traps. I'm from Amish country where they all do the buggy tours and rides and all. The food's fantastic.
Yeah.
Definitely an underrated vacation, too. When you go home, if your family ever wants to go up north, it's not going to suck on your way to New York or whatever, okay? Trust me.
All right,
You'll get something out of it, yeah, for sure. Now, also happening in Charlotte, big night for you as an App State gal. Kyle Busch drove the App State car to Victory Lane in the Alsco 300. I was snapping you about it. How great of a moment was that in the history of Appalachian State sports?
Okay, this is just a reminder to everybody that I don't sport and I only understood some of those words. Everybody turned up on Facebook when that happened, so I remember there being an App State car. Mm-hmm. I remember everybody was super excited for that, but I myself felt indifferent to it. I don't really understand NASCAR.
Got no pride.
I mean, I have no allegiance. You know this. I mean, it was cool, but I mean, it's NASCAR. Go around in a circle. Yay, you know.
It happens. You got to root for what the car looks like, I like Brad Keselowski because he has Miller Lite all over his car.
Yeah,
and number 2,
as an alumna, I guess, go App State. Absolutely. It's yay.
This might bleed over throughout your time there. I'm not quite sure, but I've been told to ask you about a car story.
Okay. Yes. So this was during my time with App TV. We had started a new show called This is App TV, and earlier on in the semester, they had asked if I would like to come on as an actress in it and a writer to kind of help with the show's next season. I said yes, and I helped co-write an episode in which my character goes after these two guys because they were talking smack about the show within the show.
SoundCloud rappers.
I mean, based on how they were
the
dressed,
story,
I'm gonna go with yes. I did not write their characters, but based on how they came alive, I will assume that these two characters were SoundCloud rappers. So in This is App TV, it's kind of like an office setup, or kind of like the office setup. So we're looking at the camera, they're following us around, we're just trying to live our lives, and within that show is a show called The Nightly News, which was headed by a host, and then everybody else was kind of either a producer of The Nightly News or, a reporter for The Nightly News. That was kind of what it was based on. So my character had just come on as a reporter, and someone was bad-mouthing the main host. Well, the main host was such a diva, and our characters knew that if he saw these mean comments, he was going to lose his mind, and we would have to deal with it. So my character hunts these two dude bros down, and she finds them at the gym, and then she hits them with her car and then threatens them to remove the comments. And that was the most fun thing to write and shoot and
no bullying allowed.
No bullying allowed, but like bodily harm is fine, if you allow it. And I just remember shooting that scene, we shot it from a bunch of different angles, and we all, we had a blast with it. And I remember one take, I was going to hit them with my car, and my car has like all these sensors and stuff on it, and it like sensed their bodies, and it immediately hit the brakes, and then it hit them. And I'm pretty sure that's the take we used.
It was authentic.
It was so bad because like I felt so bad because we had to do it like 10 times just to get the right angles and the right sequence down. But just to see something that I was able to write and then be a part of and then see the finished product. Because that episode is still available. If anyone wants to watch it, it's somewhere
YouTube
on
Underworld.
Yeah, it's somewhere on the App TV YouTube page. It's legal to watch. You can watch it. But I just remember I had a blast on that show, and I'm really kind of upset that we didn't get to film all the episodes that we wanted, because we wrote a lot of good stuff. But after we all graduated, it was passed along to a really great team of people, and they are killing it right now. So it's in good hands.
You would never hit Chris Evans with a car, would you?
Absolutely not. I would treat Chris Evans with all the delicacy that a man of his facial structure would deserve.
You guys can't see it, but like Faith is like fixing her hair as we're talking about Chris Evans right now. Favorite Chris Evans picture, and why is it Jake Weiler and not another teen movie?
Okay. That's actually not my favorite picture that he's done.
It's mine.
I did enjoy him in that. So I recently watched Knives Out, which is a phenomenal murder mystery movie. It sets up all these different tropes and then ends up just kicking them in the face.
Good.
I fell in love with Chris Evans, not during his runtime as Captain America in Marvel, but as Ransom Drysdale in Knives Out. I don't know why. That jerkwad, I'm like, oh, Chris Evans. Oh, wow. Okay, I see you. So actually what I've been doing ever since then is I've just been kind of going back and watching all the movies that Chris Evans has been in. I'm becoming a fan. This is actually something similar that happened in high school when I was obsessed with Tom Hiddleston for a little bit. So eventually this will fade. This will go away.
Would you prefer Faith Evans or Chris Hatton?
Oh, Faith Evans. I'm pretty sure she's a singer. Isn't that a country singer?
Sarah Evans.
Sarah Evans. Okay. Then yeah, Faith Evans. F.E. Oh yeah, that signature would look great. That would be. But it's weird because he's like, he doesn't look it, but he's almost 40. He looks very, very good for his age.
Paul Rudd syndrome.
Yeah, and it's like, what would we even talk about? Like, because I'm almost 25.
Your mom thinks it'd be a great match.
My mom has decided to, just go with it at this point. I told her, I'm like, yeah, Chris Evans is a babe, and I would like to marry him one day, but it'd be weird because he's older. She's like, no, he's almost 40. I can see you doing that.
I'm really glad that his Knives Out picture, you said, it sets up the tropes and then just non-spoiler alerts. I guess it goes in a new direction.
Yeah.
But the recent thrillers that I've seen that have just not done the job, Joe had me watch Cabin in the Woods, and to have Sigourney. This is a spoiler because it was terrible.
Yeah, Sigourney Weaver.
Sigourney Weaver's coming out. By the way, it's a horror movie that you're in, and here's every trope that we just laid out. We didn't know what was already going on.
Yeah.
And then Murder on the Orient Express. It was good. It was well shot. But the good, everyone was in on it line, okay. That's the line that I always use when I'm freaked out watching Joe's scary movies, when I can talk through the whole thing to ease my stress. I'll be like, oh, he's in on it. He's in on it. Oh, definitely in on it. I don't know what's going on, and I'm freaking out inside.
Yeah.
That's my game plan anyway.
Yeah.
We've talked a lot about TV shows, movies, theater shows throughout this show, whether it's live action, on TV, streaming services. Big fan of a lot of stuff. But if you walk out of this room and you tell somebody you have to see this before you die, you have to pick one, what's it going to be?
Oh my God. Out of all the things we talked about?
Yeah, it's pretty broad. It's an easy question,
Oh my God. Okay. Before they die, are they seriously dead, or are they Marvel dead, where they're going to come back later?
The happiest way I can ask it, I guess. The must-see number one.
Must-see number one, Knives Out. Just because the cinematography...
Over everything?
Over everything, yes.
Dang.
The cinematography in that movie is fantastic. They really let some moments land, and they don't bring any extra attention to it. That really gives you an insight to the characters. And I watched it one time through, and I absolutely loved it. So then I went back, and I kind of noticed the nuances and some of the decisions that they made direction-wise, and... It's just such a good movie.
That's a ton of credit to the new age.
It is. Well, it also it's one of those movies that trusts its audience to be able to follow along and kind of get those little twerks of the characters and the actors' decisions. It trusts its audience to be able to go along and let it tell its story. You know what I mean?
Wait till I tell George Lucas that you said that.
You can tell George Lucas that. Han shot first, whatever. Okay, he's already gone back and been able to cheat. So I'm going to, before he redoes the movies again, I'm going to give it to Knives Out because...
From Knives Out to Sell Out or what? Disney Empire?
I mean, yeah, once he sold it to Disney, we all knew it was going down.
I love Disney, but I hate the change.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Sounds good. So, everybody, go out and see Knives Out.
Yeah, it's on Amazon Prime.
5-star review for the plot, cinematography, and I bet some of the actors from Faith Hatton.
Mm-hmm.
Faith Hatton, KMOT, appreciate your time.
Yeah.